Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the Core New Core, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor or student. At the end of my broadcast, I typically say, as one of the things I say in signing off is that live can't live forever. It's a play on the word live used differently, and a statement that we as human beings don't live forever. And yet today, in the face of such horrendous abuse of live streaming, these may be the days when this was possible. So I'm all the more grateful for having been able to reach out to you on such a fantastic medium in such an immediate way, because the ability to live broadcast may not live forever. See what I'm saying? That was my number 3 out of 3. So my number 1 started out with a statement, and then it turned into a question in my notes. And the question is, how do you get to whole body? That assumes you have some exposure to Pilates, and somewhere along the way you've heard this notion of Pilates being a whole body exercise. And to whatever that means, my question is, how do you get there? How do you get to whole body? When you try to fulfill that notion of Pilates being a whole body exercise, how do you get there? How do you get there? My statement was, there is a way. So the statement is that there is a way to distribute the load of your body most uniformly. And in my thinking, that would be most whole body-ish, right? Having your whole body engaged and why? So why? Why do you go after that? You go after the distribution of the load to move better and easier and quicker and through space, to move better. There you go, to move better. And so the more the capacity of your musculature participates, the more of it that participates, the more it contributes to the bearing of the load that it's a part of, carrying your own weight. When the muscles engage, they start carrying their own weight. And so if a Pilates is a whole body exercise, what does that mean to you? Is it attainable? How do you get there? Is there any way to say it other than what it's not? Well, it's not isolated. It's not muscles at a time. It's not this. It's not that. But what is whole body? What do you aim for when you reach for your Pilates being a whole body effort? And I am always off into the reason, and so why most uniform? Well, that's the most efficient, right? It has the load being borne by the most musculature possible. Efficiency. It's more efficient that way. So So number two, and Pilates is all about survival, and from my point of view, and Joseph Pilates was a survivor. Anybody I ever met that knew him, usually with some degree of gravitas, would get around to saying that Joseph Pilates was a survivor. And in a way, having said it, watched to see if anybody appreciated what it meant, to whatever way it was being projected. So when you consider Joe and his times and his zeitgeist, I think he'd be pleased at the German word that he lived in. Number two, survival. And there I would go directly to the MMP point of view, where you're after the complete coordination of being, thinking, and observing. And that observing seems to be the elusive capacity within the human being in the effort to coordinate the three of those capacities. In MMP, observing matters because that is spirit. Spirit is observing. Body is being. And thinking is prefrontal cortex. It's mind. And so I'm more than willing to say, look, you can say it's all in the head, it's all in the brain, but there's a difference between thinking and observing, and it's in that distinction that you have Joe defining three things of body, mind, and spirit, not just body and mind. At least this is the MMP point of view. And of course, this is only threatening to the mind that needs to, want to, is desperate to, only knows of a point of view from thinking without having any direct, intentional guidance by an instructor on how to coordinate the observing part of the experience to the thinking and the being part, right? So, for today, my number two on survival is observing is really important. It's really important. Situational awareness. Right? Being tied into an absorbing sensation or absorbing information from your senses beyond what is happening within the thinking that you're already doing, right? A distinction between thinking and something that comes beyond thinking or something other than thinking. And all that is, in all of us as human beings, is our observing, our capacity to observe, and the magic that we do as Pilates instructors, subtly and sometimes without even knowing how it happened or what happened, but a whole lot of fun, and when can I come back? See? Thinking can be very entrenched in a tyrannical, condescending point of view. All-encompassing more is what I'd call it. And from this point of view, the being, thinking, and observing is what are capacities within every human being, and you're after helping them take more control of that. And all of it is a reaction to the situation we find ourselves, namely the biology we're in, and the physics that it's trying to survive in. Right? So, I've often said that MMP acknowledges the biology accomplishing the physics, or the physics that the biology seeks to accomplish. Do you really think it's an accident that the body developed these capacities of oppositional rotation by accident? But no, because it works. Look, watch the human being move through space. Right? Humanity is an embrace of the physics it finds itself in. But not necessarily limited to the physics because life can't live forever. Someone knocked, but I don't really think they were. It's busy here on this side of the building. All this sun and all this noise. It's quite a spectrum. So, in the observing, you got to be observing before you see what? Familiarity. That's the big part of it, right? Because until something goes by that you recognize or you're familiar with, right? There's no taking it to a deeper level. We're having more control of it. So you take a student up to a carousel and you say, look at this carousel, it's in motion. And they look at the carousel. Actually, you could just say, look, and they look, and it doesn't take long before they realize what's happening is it's going around and around. Why? Because it becomes familiar. They recognize stuff again. If we're on a really long turnbuckle, where you had to wait forever before it repeated itself, then it would just be going by. So it's from observing that you get familiarity, and from familiarity you get prediction, anticipation, right? And from the anticipation, there's a potential of preparing. So Pilates is conditioning for whatever comes up. And it's because you're human, it helps you coordinate your capacities and how well you be in your body, and how well you think, and how well you listen or observe. So, my number 3 I talked about already, which was how life might not live forever. And my summary was to just leave you with, from the MMP point of view, and it's one view out of thousands of views, right? That point of view acknowledges and recognizes core new tension in the body and makes use of it in the pursuit of doing Pilates. And why is that? So you could answer that, right? Why is that? What have we been talking about? Well, we started out talking about whole body. And how do you go for whole body? MMP only has eyes for core new tension. Not saying that there aren't eyes from other points of view. everyone wants a trained eye as a Pilates instructor. Trained for what? Well, one thing could be alignment. And in that sense of alignment, a trained eye, trained eye. See, 3 points on a line, a straight line, you can see that. You can feel that, especially the more you're able to engage tension that allows yourself to elongate along that line. How else do you do that? But if not in core new tension, right? That's why it's transcendent. That's why I got to put everything down on my. That's why I've been talking about here and then going somewhere here. It's a whole different place. And that's why here is where everybody is, and you can pick somebody up and take them up on a gondola and give an explanation of CT and MMP and send them back down, because more than likely it won't be a view that they're looking for or find attractive, because it robs you of a subjective interpretation of what Pilates is based on lineage and generation, and places a flashlight on the work itself, having an essence of its own that can only be interpreted thereafter, which we all do. I do. My view is one of 10,000. Right? But when you recognize that and you say, well, I would just as soon live within whatever part of the culture you're comfortable with. And I'm here to help you survive as an instructor. And hopefully in the time that I've had, I'm coming up on 1,000 days. I've shared with you the two things that matter most, CT and MMP. And here in YouTube, you've had the opportunity to listen, but not much has happened along those lines. But the thrill of using your phone to go live over YouTube, it's an opportunity that I have never thought wasn't of great value, and it seems may be at risk of continuing to be available in the future. Okay? So it was fun, is fun. So my sign off is about MMP recognizes core new tension, because that is the way to get to whole body, because that is the way the body gets to whole body, through engaging in the physics that it has evolved into having the capacity to engage in. You can ignore it if you want and be dismissive of it if you want, but it is there for me sensationally, and as well as to others. So I don't know what to tell you there. Other than that MMP, from that point of view, says that's obvious. There's a presence of oppositional rotation in the body. You may not like that, and you may want to live within a more comfortable, less physics-defined world. And that's fine and dandy, unless you're going into doing Pilates, and in the pursuit of ideal expression, coordinating, being, thinking, and observing. Those three capacities, that's what you mix up. And the target is the complete coordination of the capacities, not necessarily in dimension. You know, people can be much bigger thinkers than they are listeners or observers, or they can be very frail in body but strong in mind, or frail in all three. However you would adjust the degree of capability in any of those capacities, it's not about it in the dive. It's more about having a coordination of the three than of all of the capacities of the three. And to me, I would say in that there is this state of being, that there's a state of being in the body in the moment of the doing. It's a now thing, and that it's the observing that makes it a now thing. And it's the observing that takes it right to its definition of corrective exercise. And as the instructor, you dance with your student, giving them instruction from the MMP point of view to empower them to be able to observe their own for themselves and coordinate their own corrective loop. Tying into the physics that exists around them, not to any external feedback loop of mirror or instructor or thinking, without the listening to, the connection to the physics that we're in. All right, so we'll see if the other live stream is even working today. Thank you for listening, and I hope I'm at least being clear about his point of view that has not let go of me over all this time. And it's just been a privilege, and I'm grateful to have been able to continue pointing to CT and MMP, because to me there's a whole lot of empowerment in that. And as an instructor, to know who you are and what you're about, and what you're aiming for, and how to hit it. Regardless of what other thinking realms of information you add to the thinking realm, it will never surpass or eclipse the necessity of all three of the capacities to attain the definition. And I've not said anything about in the pursuit of the choreography, of course. See, so much can be said about the moment that you're after and the experience that it holds for you. And it's so easy as a Pilates instructor to go off anywhere else and do anything else. But for me, headed towards the recital of the poem, is the best performance that you could be after if you're saying, I'm doing Pilates, or I'm in pursuit of Pilates, I want to do better Pilates, I want to dive deeper for longer, right? I want to be better at, okay, I'm going to, striking a tuning fork, right? That's doing Pilates. And it fades without rekindling, restriking, regenerating through effort. All right. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Evaluate points of view. Anticipate change. But the great thing about Pilates is it brings you into the moment. Right you, the human being, into the moment. In the pursuit of this ideal choreography that's there purely to help you attune to the ideals within nature that you find yourself in. Add to and to. Direct your thinking.